Blessings, beloveds. Welcome back, Anastasia, Cosmic Astrology with you guys. Wanting to talk about the new moon in Leo, which is coming up in a few days' time. It's been an interesting morning for me. I woke up really just thinking about the fire energy in the heavens at the moment with the Sun in Leo, Mars in Leo, and Venus will shortly ingress into Leo as well, and she'll be right next to this new moon, but I'll talk about that in a moment. Jupiter in Sagittarius, Ceres in Sagittarius. So quite a bit of fire energy. Now, fire is the element that really describes spirit, right? So the word inspiration in spirit really pertains to the quality and element of fire, astrologically speaking. So just very briefly, when you think about it, if you observe fire sign people, Aries, Leos, and Sagittarians, they are almost always very they have this radiating solar force and energy, and they serve as an inspiration through courage, wisdom, heart energy, the warrior archetype and qualities, and so forth. So it is the fire element that really draws out from within us what Joseph Campbell coined or termed as the hero's journey. So this new moon in Leo is very much about our own personal quest, our personal hero's journey. And do not be mistaken when I use the term hero, I'm not referring to the lower sort of astral personality level that has a lot of egotism and self-centeredness and selfishness attached to it. I'm speaking more of the heart energy that really emanates from the soul. So Steve Nobel says this in a lot of his meditations. The heart is the gateway to the soul, and I really love that line. It's such a beautiful line. It's so incredibly true. So this new moon that's coming up is, I think, going to give us a massive burst of energy in terms of our own frequency, our vitality, physical bodies, and just our own personal journey that we are upon. You know, we are all at different points in our journey, which expands further into our evolutionary process. So a couple of quotes that I'd like to start off with. And this is a quote from Carl Jung, which I really love as well. Myths are first and foremost psychic phenomena that reveal the nature of the soul. That's a quote by Carl Jung. See, the Leo myth, that there are various myths that you could read about Leo, and in the same way with every other sign of the zodiac. But the Leo myth, whatever myth you read, is essentially always going to be connected to courage, heart energy, the hero, and the search for wholeness and the search for beingness. So it's a really important aspect of our journey in this physical form through the heart center that we have in order to become whole within ourselves. It's the quest and the search for that. So that expression, the hero's journey, that's what it's actually speaking to. It's speaking to our heart center and the courage that we must have in order to pursue our personal quest. And everyone's quest is going to look completely different. There's no right or wrong in that, and there's no my quest is better than yours and my quest is bigger than yours, etc., etc. That's ego, personality, communication or reflections. But in the core and essence and heart of the Leo archetype, that beautiful solar vibration is our heart energy speaking through the soul. So this beautiful new moon is going to really ignite and start off another new journey within the actual journey that we are on, because we have new moons every month, as we all know. So this new moon is not an eclipse, it's a new moon. We've had 2 eclipses, by the way, for this month of July, which we're still very much in the vibration of, without question. We will be till the end of the year, really. And if you want to know more about the solar and lunar eclipses that we've just had, I've already done videos on those, so please watch those and just get some more information through those videos regarding eclipses. But this new moon holds a very beautiful vibration. It's got quite a few interesting aspects to it, nothing alarming. Most of the aspects are really good. I've also had a look at the Sabian symbol, which is really beautiful, and I'll read that to you shortly. Just a couple of more comments on this Leo archetype, just to set the stage, as it were, which is a great word for Leo, of what we can, really step into with this new moon. Now, remember, with a new moon, it's always about a new beginning, right? But you are integrating that new beginning into the larger picture of your journey, right? The hero's myth is always a call to adventure. This term, hero's myth, is specifically connected to the sign of Leo. So even though you may not be a Leo, you have Leo in your birth chart, right? It's ruling or governing a particular house in your chart. You may have other planets in Leo, but whatever the case, the sun, no matter what sign the sun was in when you were born, it still holds this vibration of the hero's journey. But naturally, it's going to be experienced, evolved, and expressed through whatever sign the sun was in for you. But in Leo, if the sun was in Leo, then these components that I'm speaking of are extremely relevant in a person's life. And they really live their life through their heart center. That's not always easy. That's not always a walk in the park. It's very, very challenging, because we have to go into these deeper levels of our being as well. I'll explain that more in a moment. I just want to finish this comment. So the hero's myth is always a call that we hear through our heart and our soul. That's what he means, which takes us into unknown territory. The unknown territory is the unconscious territory, right, which resides within us. The unconscious and unknown territory, which is the call of the hero, the Leo myth, the Leo archetype, is that journey that we go through in life, where parts of our personality, which is our shadow self, are suppressed and unconscious. So it is through the different call that we get throughout life where we have an opportunity to face these unconscious components, the shadow self, and we meet it out there, as it were, through these adventures. Now, these adventures are not always just fun and games. There's a lot of fun in adventures, absolutely, but some of these adventures can be quite dangerous, because if you read in the different myths that describe Leo, it's always about slaying the dragon and, having to have to fight a number of different figures and so forth. So it's a quest for the expression of the heart and the soul, but through building character, right? That's a very strong characteristic of Leo, of the Leo energy. Leos have very strong characters, don't they? Because they are constantly going through this quest, this very, very personal quest of finding the hero within. You see, it starts out as the hero seeking out there, because the Leo myth is also very much about the Leo was an orphan. He didn't have a father. So the father figure, which Leo people almost always have a big story around their father. Either the father was absent, the father didn't give enough love to the person, wasn't there for them, couldn't recognize their gifts and their talents. So it goes on and on and on. So this search and this quest that the Leo person is looking for, and they're looking for it through the Father, is actually something that resides within him, within your own self, in other words. But you cannot find it until you go out on this adventure and this quest in life. So this is what Leo really draws out of all of us. Obviously, in different ways for all of us. And again, as I said, depending on whether you've got the Sun in Leo or the Moon in Leo, or whatever you've got going in the Leo area of your chart as well. But we are all undergoing this personal quest and journey. It is just experienced and mirrored in different ways for all of us. So by going into this unknown territory, which is the unconscious components, which is that adventure out there, we have the opportunity to draw up, to bring into our consciousness, into the light. See, Leo, which is the sun, rules daylight, right? So it is literally what lights up our world and how we can see, through consciousness in that way. So these unrealized gifts and talents and potentials that we have also remain down there in this shadow self and unconscious component. But there's a mixture of things going on. There's gifts, there's talents, there's unrealized potentials, and there's also dangers and scary stuff down there. But and it's a lifelong journey. We don't just wake up one day and confront something and say, okay, I'm totally actualized, I'm totally self-actualized, I'm totally self-realized. It's an ongoing process that really actually speaks to our evolutionary path in the bigger picture. So through this journey, we encounter our shadow self, which is parts of our suppressed aspects of our personality, which are unconscious. But by finding ways to bring these suppressed components of ourselves up into the conscious daylight, which is Leo, the sun, soul force, energy, soul love, then we are able to somehow integrate these abandoned, you could say, components of our personality or our consciousness into our waking consciousness. And through this process of integration, confronting, accepting, and realizing, that is where we begin to have these death and rebirth experiences in life that ultimately lead to the various transformations that we undergo. So that's some thoughts around the Leo archetype. Just another thing, the Leo journey, the hero's journey, is connected to what's called the path of individuation, which is what Carl Jung spoke about in his astrology and mythology. And the individuation process, again, very much it's the hero's journey again, just it termed in a different way, connecting to shadow components of ourself. So it's about bringing the unconscious content up to the surface so that we can integrate it into our conscious personality. And this is why we have these shadow components. They remain shadow like until we actually learn to integrate them. Another way of saying this through the esoteric lens of astrology is to say that we are ultimately seeking to align the personality and the soul so that there is this integration process and we can become integrated and whole through this process and experience and evolution. So for the most part, we're sort of swinging back and forth. We're diving in and then we're coming back up to the surface. Now, accessing this unconscious material, which also reflects our unrealized potential, is not easy to do. It does require a conscious journey and conscious effort, as a lot of you would be aware. And a lot of ways of accessing this kind of material is through dream work, through astrology, through therapy, through meditation. There are so many different techniques that enable us to actually draw these unconscious components or this unconscious material, to integrate it into our conscious personality, which can ultimately help us towards becoming whole and becoming authentic. The path of individuation is essentially about realizing your true potential, realizing your true authentic self. right? And this is what Leo depicts. This is what Leo shines a light on. You know, it's that full, realized, embodied self that comes through the heart, which is the gateway of the soul. Um, the other very interesting quote that I'd like to read as well by Joseph Campbell is, he says, these mythological symbols stem from the psyche. They speak from, pardon me, they speak from and are to the spirit, and they are in fact vehicles of communication between the deeper depths of our spiritual life and this relatively thin layer of consciousness by which we govern our daylight experiences. That is such a powerful quote. You probably really have to um, meditate on that to connect to that quote. But it's incredibly profound, and it just really speaks to more or less what I've been saying the last 10 minutes. Um, just a couple of other points about Leo. So it's the quest of the hero coming from within the heart. It's connected to our individuation process, which is what, as I said, it's about realizing our true potential, our authentic self. And this is also reflected in EA, evolutionary astrology, which connects to the planet Uranus in terms of our path of individuation. But even that is really about deconditioning, right? Imprints that have taken place over, you know, numerous lifetimes. Why are we deconditioning? Because we want to come back to our authentic self, right? To our unrealized potential. And that's the purpose of Uranus. It helps us decondition. And interestingly enough, this new moon has a square by Uranus. So Uranus is speaking very strongly on this level, I feel. And I'll talk about a little bit more about that in a moment. Now, I love Joseph Campbell's quote, follow your bliss and the universe will open doors where there were only walls. That's a very, very powerful quote. And again, that really speaks to our own journey, our own quest in life to discover our unrealized potential, which for the most part lies unconscious. Um, so the sun, which another word is soul, and the word sun in Italian language is spelled S-O-L, soul, which equals spirit. So, as I said before, it is the fire signs that really draw out the spirit, the fire. You know, spirit and fire is what gives us courage, true courage. That's why Leo is known. It rules the heart. You know, Leo rules the heart center. And it's the vibration of the heart that's going to ultimately triumph or be victorious in this journey, in this quest, this personal quest that we all have to become truly realized of our true potential, our authentic self, right? Just a couple of other comments about this Leo archetype. So the other points that I really liked that I was considering as well are once we do consciously embark on this journey, because we're always on it, but whether we are aware or conscious of it or not is, you know, is a different thing, right? So, but we are always on this quest. But when we do have some consciousness and awareness, and therefore we are consciously integrating these unconscious components, right, which is the soul and personality, lining up, integrating, unifying, we are confronted, as I said, with some dangerous situations at times. The adventure has a myriad of experiences in terms of what we need to do to build strength of character, which is Leo. And it is really important. This is a really important point, because when we do that consciously, we have to be able to do it in the face of rejection, right? In the face of not being recognized or applauded for our journey, for our quest, for our gifts, for our talents. So when we go under, when we go in and under, and we retrieve these components, shadow components of ourselves, which has some dark, murky stuff that we need to face. And then there is all the gifts and unrealized potential as well. We have to be able to bring that up and bring that forth, not for the purposes of the glamorized Leo expression of needing to have attention and recognition from, you know, everybody around me, and that's when I feel kind of complete or accepted. It's more about bringing these gifts forth in the face of perhaps being rejected and not applauded and recognized. And when we are able to do that, that's when we're truly able to offer our true gifts of our authentic self through our heart center to the world, to everyone around us. Because if we don't do that, then we remain in the enslavement of the opinions of everybody else. And we can't actually come forth authentically when we are concerned about the opinions of everybody else. So we remain in that type of enslavement if we don't actually have that courage to step forward with whatever it is we have to give without the desire to want to benefit from the level of recognition and so forth. So these are really important points when it comes to the Leo archetype and what it truly represents at that true heart center level. And by doing this, we find our own unique pathway to our bliss as well. Okay, so let's get to the chart. I hope that little introduction is useful, just in helping you really connect to this new moon in Leo, because it's really a very special new moon, and there's a beautiful Sabian symbol. Actually, I might just read that to you now. So it's page 137. So the Sabian symbol would be 9 of Leo, because the new moon in Leo is at 8 degrees and 36 minutes of Leo. So when you are working with Sabian symbols, this is the book that I have. There are a couple of others out there, but this is the one that I use. When you are looking at a degree, you can look at a Sabian symbol for anything in your chart, any degrees in your chart, right? Any planet, any point, north node, south node, house cusps, ascendant, you know, absolutely everything. And sometimes it's just one Sabian symbol that you read that encapsulates your whole life journey, your hero's quest journey. It can be quite surreal in terms of how just one little sentence captures what you're about and what your journey is about. So Sabian symbols can be incredibly profound. It's not always the case. I mean, it's not like if you read the 360 degrees, which makes up the birth chart, if you were to read every single degree as it's placed in your birth chart, you're not going to find, you know, a mind-blowing, significant, symbolic meaning to every degree in your chart. That it just won't happen. So don't be looking for that. Try and look for the quality as opposed to quantity, right? So as I said, the new moon is in Leo at 8 degrees and 36 minutes. So we go to the subsequent degree, which is 9 degrees of Leo, and you apply that method to any degree you were looking at. So if your sun was 10 degrees of Pisces, you would look at 11 degrees of Pisces in the Sabian symbols, okay? This is such a beautiful Sabian symbol. So the heading of it is called Glass Blowers Shape Beautiful Vases with Their Controlled Breathing. Now bear with me because it will make sense as I continue to read. The keynote is the need to involve one's most spiritual and vital energies in the creative act if it is to produce significant and beautiful new forms. So in short, this Sabian symbol is really talking about our breath, which is to be inspired, right? Because as long as you are breathing, you are inspired, right? When you stop breathing, you've expired, haven't you? And that's when you've left your body. So it is spirit that breathes through this body and keeps this mechanism going. And this Sabian symbol is just pointing to the power of spirit and breath. let me just read it a little bit further. The breath represents the power of the spirit, animator of all living manifestations. Because the glass blower uses his breath to shape the glass vessels, he is a fitting symbol of how deeply any creative individual has to involve his total being in the creation. Now, they're using the word creative, creation, because that's what Leo is about. It's ultimately, apart from everything else I've mentioned, it's the most creative force and source and juice of all the archetypes. It's the purest creative potential, totally realized. Then it goes on further to say he's also using the fire of the spirit, transpersonal inspiration, or in another sense, the fire of deeply felt emotions. Any creative activity which does not involve both the breath and the fire cannot transform into beautiful artworks, or indeed into any new form of order. The raw materials remain of the past, the sand. So this is a very, very beautiful Sabian symbol to remind us that in our own quest, quest in life, the journey in our life requires this tremendous consciousness of breath and spirit coming forth as we are creating, because we are creating and co-creating all the time, whether we are aware of it or not. Creation comes through in so many ways. You know, it starts off way somewhere out there before it even comes into our left brain. You know, it's in the ether, it's in the astral realms. You know, it's in so many layers. It's in our chakra systems. It has to go through so many spheres before it actually lands into our left brain, where we start to give it some kind of order, or we start sort of connecting the dots in order to expand or create on what's coming through, right? But through the conscious intention of our spiritual energy, spiritual fire, you know, spiritual fire is held in the heart and in the belly as well, if we're going to talk about chakras. So anyway, look, that's a very, very powerful Sabian symbol for this new moon, which really speaks to the importance of the spiritual vibration contained in our heart center, and how important that is to be aligned and connected and coming through consciously with what we intend to create with this new moon. So this new moon is going to land somewhere in your birth chart, right? In any one of the 12 houses. Obviously have a look at which house it lands in, because it is that area of life that can speak to everything that I've just said. You need to somehow connect that for your own self personally. Okay, so let me just make a few more comments about the actual chart itself. Sorry, I need to share my screen. Okay, so here is the chart. In Australian Eastern Standard Time, it happens to be on the 1st of August. For some of you, it'll be a day before that, so obviously adjust it to your own location. Now, once again, don't worry about the location of where the planets are in this chart, because our focus is just simply the new moon, which is at 8 degrees 36 minutes of Leo. It's conjunct Venus. It's actually conjunct Mars and conjunct Juno as well. It's trine Jupiter, and it's square Uranus. Now, it has pretty extraordinary aspects to it. I really love the trine by Jupiter. Before I actually talk a little bit about these aspects in the chart, one other thing I just remembered that I wanted to mention as well is that on an esoteric level, the sign Leo is ruled by the sun esoterically as well, right? Just as it is in exoteric astrology. However, in terms of rays, now there are 7 rays. As I've done a few videos, I've mentioned a few bits and pieces. I'll keep bringing more material on that as time progresses. But just to refresh your memory or to bring to your awareness in case you don't know, ray number 2, there are 7 rays. Now, ray number 2 is ruled by the Sun and Jupiter, okay? And ray number 2 is the ray of love wisdom. It's called love wisdom. But it is the unifying force of the highest level of love, right? The highest level of universal, unconditioned love that comes streaming purely from the divine forces straight into our heart. Boom. So this new moon is actually ruled by the sun, um, exoterically, and it's also ruled by the sun and Jupiter on an esoteric level. So this new moon is loaded with so much heart-centered energy. Now, Leo rules the heart to begin with, okay? As I just said, in esoteric astrology, ray number 2 is all about the heart, the deepest, deepest, deepest expression of divine heart, source, love, oneness. And it's ultimately a unifying force that is about loving, being able to love everything and everybody, right? Without judgment. It's unifying. It's a very, very, very powerful ray, ray number 2. Most beautiful ray. People who have ray number 2 as their soul ray, usually soul ray, personality ray can be a bit difficult because all the rays on the personality level are challenging, right? Because the ultimate thing is to integrate your personality ray with your soul ray. So you need to know what those two are. Now, ray number 2 at the soul level is the sort of person that just wants to give to everybody, love everybody, include everybody. Does that on the personality level as well, but on the personality level, it finds itself into quite a bit of trouble because it doesn't implement boundaries, it gets taken for granted. There's a number of different things about that. But getting back to this new moon has Jupiter trine the sun. Jupiter is the protective force in the chart, right? In your birth chart, Jupiter is your guardian angel, basically, right? So Jupiter in Sagittarius is in its rulership, and it's forming a trine to this new moon. And the Sun and Jupiter are the 2 planets that connect to ray number 2. So this new moon holds the most incredible vibration of soul ray number 2. And that it's just truly speaking about love and the heart center and heart energy. Now, those words aren't enough to encapsulate the depth and the volume of this incredibly powerful vibration of this Leo-centered energy. The Venus there as well is really, really important because she is in Leo and she's conjunct this new moon. It's only about 4 degrees away, and Jupiter is a little bit further, and Mars is further on, and Juno is further on. But Venus is what? Venus is all about connection, love, unity, relationships, enjoyment, pleasures, a whole myriad of things. But essentially, Venus is a goddess, a symbol, an archetype that is about love, vibration, love energy, unifying and connecting everybody, right? And in esoteric astrology, Venus rules Gemini, which brings in the element of loving all our brothers and sisters, right? That's what it means in esoteric astrology, because Gemini is brothers and sisters. And esoterically, Venus ruling Gemini is saying we need to love all our brothers and sisters. And this is obviously, if we go into Christianity and biblical quotes, there is a quote to that effect in the Bible as well, isn't there? About loving all our brothers and sisters. So there's a huge heart-centered vibration here that can take us much deeper into our own personal quest of actually opening up our own heart center. Because the fact is this, that particularly through modern technology, whilst there are so many incredible advancements, from a technological perspective that have opened and expanded our consciousness in so many ways. The downside to this modern technological world is that it takes us away from our heart center and just takes us into the left brain mental sphere. And when we are so preoccupied with our thinking and our left brain, we are getting further and further and further away from our heart center, and our thoughts literally take over our entire life on a day-to-day basis. So this heart center energy with new moon in Leo is a call. Now remember, at the beginning I said with the hero's journey there is always a call that comes to us. Well, the call through this new moon is to go back to your heart center, back into the deepest component of your heart, and connect with that. Get out of the mind, get out of the left brain ideas and thinking. Get into that heart center. Open your heart back up so that you can love yourself, first of all, honestly, openly, and completely. Because, look, a lot of people don't have this pure love for themselves. A lot of people don't. It's just a fact, and it's unfortunate because we need to have that. Once we have that, the whole world that you see out there will look completely different. The reason we don't see this soul heart-centered love radiating everywhere is because we are not all radiating it consciously, 100% authentically in our own center. So a new moon like this with Venus there as well is calling us to connect with that, to remind us of that, to expand that journey, to have that courage to go in and open your heart. How many people's hearts are closed on this planet? There are a lot, some more than others, but there are a lot. And the opening of the heart center is really the ultimate healing tool, right? It's the key to experiencing and seeing love everywhere, right? So that there is unification, unison, instead of separation and division, which is most of what we see, right? So this is what this new moon speaks to. And Mars there is calling for the warrior energy, archetype, Aries, Mars, willpower. It's calling for the warrior to have that courage to open his heart or her heart. So there's a lot of energies here, all speaking directly to our heart center. Can we step into that? Do we want to step into that? Because if we do, this is an incredibly powerful new moon, supported in so many ways through the Sabian symbol, through the trine to Jupiter, esoterically, Jupiter and the Sun, array number 2, which is about the heart center, love, unison. The square from Uranus, I don't think has to be a problem. Now, squares are dynamic aspects and they do provoke tension, we know that, and inner conflict. But from a more higher level of experience, manifestation, perception, understanding, inner standing, individuation, consciously working on our path of individuation, which is to become basically authentic, to become self-realized. That's what individuation is about. So the planet of individuation, according to evolutionary astrology, is forming a square to this new moon, which is saying what? It's saying this heart center energy space that you need to activate, this heart of yours that you need to open up, is there's some friction there by Uranus. I think that will speak to inner tensions of within our own self that could possibly rise about opening our own heart, right? About opening our heart to become more self-realized, to become self-actualized. that is to then decondition, right? Remove layers of things that have held us back in the past, because a lot of people will associate this heart energy with my heart's broken. I've been hurt too many times. I can't trust people with my heart. You know, all those sorts of things will come up. But everyone's experienced pain in their heart in some way, shape, or form. Nobody evades that experience. But the conditioning of imprinting that can be mounted, literally mounted onto your heart, that closes your heart chakra, is debilitating and crippling, because we can't be on this quest in life of being able to go inside and access these deeper gifts and talents and potentials and unrealized components and face our shadow stuff if our heart center is closed. We cannot do that. So that the heart center, which is the heart chakra, is really the gateway, right, to the soul. It really is. And it's what opens everything up for us. It opens fears, it opens anxieties, it opens a myriad of things, but ultimately it opens our quest to our soul life, right? And our authentic self being able to shine through. So it's a really, really beautiful new moon, activating these vibrations in such high levels if we are wanting to tap into it. It's there for all of us. And obviously, whatever house it's in your birth chart, as I said, it will somehow be reflected through that domain, through that part of your chart. I just noticed something else is quite interesting here as well, as a separate thing, but as part of this vibration of the new moon. That Venus in Leo forms a trine to Ceres and a trine to Chiron. Now, Ceres and Chiron are, without a doubt, without question, two incredibly painful journeys of our life, right, in terms of what they speak to. But at the same time, they also speak to our ability to heal, recover, and nurture ourselves. So this fire grand trine, meaning spirit, courage, in this fire grand trine is also giving us an opportunity to perhaps again somehow work with, and we are able to work with this energy because it's a grand trine. A grand trine is formed by the fire signs, right? Any trine aspect is formed with the planets being in the same element, in this case fire. So Leo forms a trine to Sag, Sag forms a trine to Aries, Aries trines Leo, and so it's a triangle, right, that you can actually see. You can see Venus in Leo, Ceres in Sag, Chiron in Aries. This formation is going to be active for a little while, and has actually started before the day of this new moon as well. So it's a vibration that's going to carry probably for, the next few weeks. Again, this is an opportunity. This is important because when it comes to the new moon opening our heart center, what are the resistances going to be? I might just stop sharing this for now. The resistances are going to be because our heart is closed in some kind of way. There is fear of letting people in. Fear because we fear being abandoned, rejected, judged, not loved. So this trine with Venus, Ceres, and Chiron is offering a vibration that can help us activate where we fear experiencing some kind of pain or grief or some kind of rejection by opening our heart center. And there is an actively supportive energy and force through this grand trine, because a trine or a grand trine is a supportive, flowing vibration that assists us as we are consciously trying to work through things. And this particular grand trine is really speaking to our own inner personal self-worth, right? Because Venus is our own personal self-worth. Chiron in Aries is our own personal identity. And Ceres in Sag is where we may have experienced or are experiencing a sense of lack of nurture or loss in some kind of way through something that we held faith towards, or something that we really believed about our life, our philosophical perhaps outlook, right, on life, that there might have been some kind of let down there. But this grand trine is reactivating, is giving us this opportunity to integrate the Venus, the Ceres, and the Chiron to create some kind of healing and some process of nurturing. Because Ceres is the principle of loss and grief, but she's also the principle of nurturing or lack of it. So there's a call there from Ceres in Sagittarius to somehow nurture our own self through our philosophical, spiritual, right brain knowledge, wisdom, inner knowing, and truth, right? Because Sag is all about truth. The other thing that was there as well was Juno was close to Mars there. So she's part of the new moon as well, but she's, further on. But she's still important because she's an asteroid goddess, and she's a very important asteroid goddess. She speaks very strongly in anybody's chart, actually, because she always brings up matters of loyalty, commitment, fairness and equality, right? And a number of other different things. But those are her core central themes in terms of what she activates within us. So her presence with the new moon is speaking to, how loyal are we to our own heart? How much are we prepared to work with this energy? How committed? Because she's the principle of commitment, right? And she's in Leo, which is our own heart. So how committed and loyal are we to our own heart's journey and the quest of our heart, right? Which is the integration of heart and soul. So there's a lot of beautiful, powerful vibrations with this new moon, and I really hope that you guys truly make the most of this energy and really just think about setting some very conscious, powerful intentions of what you wish to create with this new moon, but more specifically about where is it in your life that perhaps you need to show more courage, or where is it in your life that you need to open your heart and get rid of the resistances and the fears, for fear of not being accepted, or for fear of not being recognized for it or appreciated. How can you step into this for your own soul's evolution so that you can activate this energy for the purposes of your growth that ultimately benefit everybody around you and the entire planet, right? So this is my take on this new moon. I think it's just a very powerful energy. It's very, very positive. It's very uplifting because fire always uplifts. When you are around people who are fire signs, generally you will. It's like they inject just a buzz. Just to use a simple word, they inject this sort of passion and fire and inspiration in us. That's what fire signs do. So to have this new moon in amongst everything that I've mentioned, you can see the power that it holds, provided you do what needs to be done for your own self to activate it, to embrace it, to connect with it, and to set some conscious intentions with it. So there it is. I'll leave it there for today. I hope that you're able to use it in the most positive way for yourself and for your loved ones around you. I'll be back soon for something else. Not sure what. We'll see how it goes. If you wish to contact me for a reading, my details are below. Thank you so much for your comments and questions, and for joining into my community section as well, and sending you all an abundance of love and light and blessings as we are stepping closer towards this new moon. And personally, I find this new moon very powerful because it really hits off some pretty important things in my own chart, but also esoterically, I'm a soul ray number 2, so I'm governed by Jupiter and the Sun in terms of my soul vibration, which is about universal love. And so when I was considering that today for this new moon, I just felt an overwhelming sense of inspiration and emotion and joy and a bunch of things. And also, what happened to me this morning, which I started to say but I didn't complete, I was doing a cleansing in my home with some beautiful, pure frankincense that I actually get from a church supply shop. And I tend to do that every Sunday, mainly connecting to my dad. And so right behind me where you see that white box, that's my father's ashes in that box. So his energy is with me everywhere in this space here. So I started to burn this frankincense to just to give a bit of a cleansing around. And it's not Sunday here today, but I decided to do it today. And there was an incredible synchronicity and symbolic thing that happened as I was standing there in the center of this room, just watching all this smoke and breathing it and clearing my own space as well. This bee, just, I don't even know where she came from, but she landed on my father's ashes. She just sat on that space there just for a few seconds, and then she just danced around it, and then she flew right towards me. And I was a little bit nervous because I didn't want to get stung, but at the same time I knew that she wasn't going to hurt me, and I knew that there was a much more powerful symbolic meaning to her presence in that moment, connecting to my father. And the whole morning before that, I was just thinking about spirit, fire, new moon in Leo, Jupiter in Sag, and I was just feeling this incredible sense of spiritual force, spiritual fire coming through me. So my whole day has been revolved around these vibrations, and naturally, I felt very compelled to sit down and do this video today. So just that's just a personal side note of one of my experiences today. Okay, guys, I'll see you real soon, and sending you again much love and blessings.